All right. So, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Hunters Hub, the video game podcast born of the Monster Hunter community. But we are not talking any Monster Hunter tonight because Sasha dropped a bomb of a topic on us over the week. So we'll get into that very soon. But this is your host, Fortuan, joined by co-host Sasha. How is the evening treating you?
Well, the caffeine is kicking in, and I'm really excited to talk about this because I got myself really geeked out about something that doesn't really exist.
Sure.
How's the evening treating you guys?
I'm managing. I just realized I didn't grab any drink, so I might have to do that at some point. Um, but yeah, I'm, I'm managing. Cool breeze coming through the window over here. Literally, there's a window on each side of the computer, so if it blows the right way, it might come onto me, maybe. But I'm probably going to get sweaty while we're talking tonight. And Ace, bud, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Kind of tired. Had a sort of busy night and then busy morning. So
Is the
due for a
kiddo
nap.
getting up in the night or no?
Mainly just work and
Mm.
sleep schedule. So
Yeah, I understand that. We got so as of right now, for context for people listening, Breath of the Wild 2 / Tears of the Kingdom came out yesterday, and I have played a total of like 30 minutes of it. I have not played it hardly at all.
That's 30 more minutes than I've played.
Of
I've
any
put in a couple
Zelda.
hours already.
Like, I'm seeing these things on Twitter that feel like spoilers now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't have the time to play like that, guys. Hold on, I got the kids. Now, we did see the Mario movie a second time today. I took them to the theaters to see it again, and the after credits scene is still as fun as ever. Because I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. It's just a Yoshi egg, and it cracks, and then you hear the iconic, and then the movie ends, and they were like, "No, we want to see it." I was like, "You've already seen that part." Like, okay, it's fine. Let's. So we were literally the last person in the theater, like just the three of us. So it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You
All
so
right.
have you seen it yet, Ace?
Nope,
Okay,
I've not.
I know Sasha
I mean,
has.
a couple weeks ago, I saw multiple streams on TikTok of people being in theaters and streaming it
Mm,
on their accounts, and I'm like, I don't have the patience to sit here and watch it on
yeah.
my phone.
Okay.
Like, there's no reason for this.
Well, when you get around to seeing it, second watching, I would say it is just as fantastic. Like, I thought I was being like nostalgic, and I'm like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
legitimately a good movie. Like
Nice. I've
a
heard good
nice
things about it. Yeah.
fun movie. Like, it's not super deep, not super dark. And with me rewatching Lord of the Rings, thanks to your stupid theory, Ace, that has been oh oh.
So have they spoken to each other yet in front of you,
Here's
or
here's the thing, they do not speak to each other directly.
so no?
No. However, and this is where I figured the theory is going to fall apart. There are mentions of specifically Legolas talking to Aragorn, knowing Frodo's name, and there are mentions of Frodo talking to other people, saying Legolas's name. So to narrow it down to only them talking to each other is not sufficient.
So you came with receipts.
I did. I didn't watch them all, but I did a lot of research. Now, according to in the books, there is direct dialogue between Legolas and all of the hobbits several times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it doesn't even. That's like it's called a film theory for this one in particular because the moment you bring the books into question, it's entirely asinine. Like there's no chance. It's like proven wrong within like chapter 4. So okay. But yeah, no, that was my focus this week until we got this question, and then that was my focus. And then today and yesterday was the Diablo 4 beta getting my because they did the server slam this week. They're like, hey, come slam our servers, and they made it sound as sexual as possible, which is kind of funny to me. Um, and yeah, the server slam went really well. Like the login times and queues were non-existent to to my experience. Was able to get in, level up a character, defeat the world boss Ashava after a second try because I failed the first attempt, and yeah, that's done. So now I can play more Breath of the Wild. I did not finish Star Wars. Didn't even come close. Like I barely got out of the first area still. So Breath of the Wild it is. But without further ado, Sasha, would you like to describe it tonight since it was your idea?
Sure. So I've been watching a lot of HBO,
Mm-hmm.
and there's kind of a formula for a lot of their TV shows. But in general, the Last of Us show had me thinking, what if another video game franchise got the HBO treatment?
Mm-hmm.
And, how would we fan cast our favorite show? And what would the outline to the first season be?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how you want to handle this because I feel like it's not an easy. I think the casting and the outline would have to be together for all of us. So I think it's going to be a lot of one at a time tonight. I'm going to save myself for last because I know I'm probably going to be the longest just based on my cast list and the game I chose. So
Fair enough.
Sasha and Ace, you guys want to decide between each other who wants to go first. But my theory is that we're not going to be talking about the outline of what happens in the show as much, and mostly about the cast or interactions, because I feel like, despite the premise of being season one, I think there's implications of setting up things in season one, like many HBO shows. So
Yeah, I'm thinking that, at least for how I was going to present, was peppering the cast in as I explained each episode.
sure. I have to explain the episode, and I would like to have peppered the cast in, but then we'd be here forever explaining everything. So I'm going to lightly explain the outline, and then go into the cast, which will inform the story to a degree. And I will say right now, heavy spoilers tonight for Octopath Traveler 2. So, warning people again that I have already spoiled this game entirely before. So all right. I guess which one did we decide who's going first?
No, not.
Okay, Ace. We'll just
Doesn't
make
matter
it you.
to me.
We'll go counterclockwise according to the screen.
So is that me?
Yep, you're up.
Okay. So, I mean, as I indicated in the planning chat with my GIF, I went with my obvious pick of Dead Space.
Sure.
It's been one of my favorite games of all time, and I feel like the TV show / movie space is missing some decent sci-fi horror. So I feel like it'd be good to get a really nice.
I mean, movies have a good sci-fi horror catalog. I don't think shows do, and I think
Mhm.
I think that works out pretty well.
Yeah. So I would say we could, with the TV show, it could mostly stick to the chapters, each being an episode.
Oh,
So
so straight up with the
as
game.
you know, yeah.
Okay.
So each episode is gonna have it's gonna have the chapters from the game that spell out the spoiler of Nicole is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what 11. I want to say 13, something like that.
12.
So
If
12.
I'm spelling it right, I just counted on my fingers. So 12.
Yeah, so it'd be a 12 episode series. Um, and it
which isn't bad.
obviously, yeah, I mean, it'd be more than The Last of Us was. I felt like they kind of rushed some aspects of the story, but overall, I think the pacing was pretty good. I think it'd be nice to definitely flesh out the environment of Dead Space, especially the USG Ishimura,
Hmm.
because that's I would say one of the more iconic spaceships in sci-fi gaming, just because of the history behind it and the lore behind it, as well as the Dead Space universe overall.
I'm
So
just
having played, you beat the new remake version, right?
I have not yet.
Okay, so I was gonna ask, are there fundamental differences between the games that you would want to pick one version over the other for the show?
mm,
Yes. Namely, there is a very good change of Isaac having a propulsion system on his suit right away.
yeah.
So you don't have to jump from surface to surface in zero gravity. You can just jet around, which makes maneuvering around and getting around in zero gravity areas far less tedious. And then also, there are two sequences in the game. Mainly, I would go with the change for the first one of the asteroids shooting section. Um, they change it from being a straight up like arcade shooter where you have to get all the different ones to you have to go down this trench
Hmm.
and sync up each blaster with your plasma cutter. So you're aiming at the asteroids and pulling the trigger, but it's the ion cannons that shoot. So once you sync that up and take enough shots, that recalibrates it and streamlines it. Uh, I was able to, even though I didn't understand it right away, I was able to do it on my first run
Okay.
without, you know, dying over and over and over again, which didn't happen so much on like the easy and medium settings in like the old game, but like on hard mode and the I'm not sure if it's Zealot in the original Dead Space, uh, but it becomes fairly frustrating to try and get all the as many of the asteroids as you can and still
Right.
survive. Um, there were many a time where I was just exploded and I had to put the game down and go do something else because I was just getting beyond frustrated that I could not
Oh yeah.
get past this one base, like simple task to move on with the story. So that's definitely something I would keep. Um, I would definitely, in terms of like a technical thing, I would definitely keep a close mind on sound design because the ways that they changed up sound design in the game for the remake also enhanced the experience
Sure.
because that's like one of the things that I brought up when they released their development video was that they made the audio change depending on where you were. So like there's that infamous scene where you go around, go down a long corridor, go around a corner, and come back down, um, where you see a guy banging his head against a wall, and eventually splits it open and kills himself.
Hmm.
They instead of just having it be sort of one uh, equal level of sound, it starts out really like muted and grows as you get to that corner, and then uh, you get like the full sense of it once you get to it. Uh, so I'd definitely keep those like environmental aspects in mind, and
Sure.
then additionally, I would definitely have a body horror thing going on. Um,
Oh yeah.
I
That
think I definitely
part
want
of
to,
part of the reason why this being an HBO show works is because they can be graphic and they can be gory with these kind of things too.
yeah. So I my cast is pretty star-studded, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, I bet.
I think I would definitely want to bring a lot of the voice actors slash capture actors in and have them uh, be creature feature or like body horror type stuff.
Oh,
Either have
okay.
them be survivors, because there are various like survivors that you run into that either die from their wounds or get killed off by certain people.
Okay. So
So,
so kind of paying homage to the original people while casting. I mean, like I said, I saw the Mario movie today, and they do a lot of that. I mean, Charles Martinet, even though he didn't get to voice Mario, which a lot of people were sad about, he plays two characters
mhm,
in the Mario movie. He plays both Jumpman and he plays Mario's father in the show.
okay,
So yeah,
nice.
I that's a great idea. That way you can get people to come based on the actors and still pay homage to the game actors essentially.
Yeah, I think it'd be because if I remember correctly, in the remake, there is a person who gives you the pulse rifle. I think it might be a woman, but I would change it to be Gunner Wright,
Okay.
who's like a survivor, quote unquote, who then dies in the process of like finally just bleeds out.
Yeah.
Um, but getting onto my cast,
Mm-hmm.
uh, since I've been getting back into Star Wars and since I recently
Oh, I
rewatched,
showed the girls episode 1 the other day, and we
uh-huh,
watched part of episode 2 today. They got disinterested because it's too political. But yeah.
uh, I mean, yeah, sort of. And then since I also rewatched Doctor Sleep,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh,
my Isaac Clarke is gonna be Ewan Gregor.
yeah. I knew as soon as you said
I
Doctor Sleep was like Ewan McGregor's coming out for this one. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he is definitely especially with Star Wars, with him being Obi-Wan Kenobi both in the movies and then the series for Disney Plus, and then
Yeah.
also doing Doctor Sleep, and then what is it, Train Spotting. I definitely think his his acting has grown a lot in recent years, and he would be a good choice for someone
Oh,
who is
I think he's always been a stellar actor. One of my favorite
mhm,
movies, Big Fish. He plays the main character in that, and he's stellar in that. And that was well before any of this resurgent stuff.
mhm.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked him,
Yeah.
and I mean, just rewatching Doctor Sleep, I think he did a phenomenal job in that
Mhm.
of playing adult Danny Torrance. You know,
Yeah.
growing up with what he experienced, and then uh, how his ability to shine affected him. I mean, just the idea of the death flies, how he would always see those around people who were about to die, and then his own mother was covered in her face was covered in them
Yeah.
before she died, was sort of like a really disturbing visual to think of.
Yeah.
Um, and then also because I watched Doctor Sleep, I think Rebecca Ferguson would be a very good choice to play a Nicole Brennan, Isaac's girlfriend,
Can you
because
remind me who Rebecca Ferguson is? I'm not.
Is that Rose the
Rose
Hat?
Rose the Hat.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think she definitely definitely plays that sort of like twisted character
Sure.
very well, and I think it would be very very entertaining to see her, play that first initial bit of um, at least in the first season, essentially being that girlfriend who Isaac is trying to save and then reunites. And I think it'd be interesting to put like little hints with like the dialogue and like facial expressions and stuff like that
Okay.
as to hinting that, she's not there and she's just a hallucination. Um,
Yeah.
and then Kendra Daniels, who is one of the crew members who arrives with Isaac, but then
Yeah.
turns out to actually be a unitologist, which is the cult-like religion in the Dead Space lore,
Yeah.
who is obsessed with the marker despite not understanding that it will destroy humanity.
Right.
There is no like harnessing it or harnessing its powers to advance humanity. It's just destruction
The resident
or
Scientologist.
evolution, as some people would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would go with Emily Swallow, who plays Amara in Supernatural for Supernatural fans out there, or the Armorer in Mandalorian.
Okay. That's what I
Okay.
would know her from. I did not watch Supernatural so far.
She she definitely comes across like a strong-headed character in the performances that I've seen. I mean, she played uh, Amara in Supernatural, who was God's sister or the darkness
Hmm.
for the supernatural lore.
Okay.
Um, I mean, sort of just her, at least some people would say, with how they had her act through the seasons, and especially with this season, with the sort of bait and switch that they had, her her armorer character being kind of cold, definitely fits with uh, Kendra's behavior, especially towards the end of the game, where she just reveals to Isaac that he's been hallucinating Nicole the whole time, and it's
Yeah.
just like, sucks to suck. I'm gonna take this marker. Peace.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I was kind of split on Zach Hammond between three three actors.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to go with Lance Reddick, but he has passed away, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like a month ago or so. I mean, he's been in everything. He was also in Doctor Sleep, so I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of unfortunate that my Doctor Sleep family came through so much, but not him. Um, so I'm kind of split between Idris Elba or Mahershala Ali for the role of Zachary Hammond, who is the captain of the crew that lands on the USG Ishimura. Um,
Yeah.
but I think Idris Elba just sort of edges it out because he's had that, sci-fi commander role who sacrifices himself in two two movies, Pacific Rim and uh, Prometheus.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think one of the things that I'd change up though is I'd have, since Isaac Clarke would very obviously be speaking and wouldn't just be silent protagonisting it through the whole entire TV show. Um, I'd definitely have Zach's or Hammond because they really just refer to him with his last name in the game. I'd have his sacrifice as he fights one of the behemoths, the tank necromorphs, the big brutes. Um, I'd actually have him do some meaningful damage and partially dismember it before he gets taken out.
Sure.
Because, I mean, they've got stasis and kinesis and stuff like that. And I'd like to think that Isaac would be like, stasis him and shoot him in the back of the legs
Yeah.
because the brutes are all armored up on the front, so you can't really take them out that way. You've got to get around behind them.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's definitely one thing I'd change up.
Okay.
Um, and then I think another aspect I'd change up to is I'd have scenes that show what happened to not painting the full picture of what happened with the initial outbreak, but scenes depicting where we see on security footage because that is an aspect of the game. I'd
Okay.
have it do like the show security footage that then transitions into like the scene, and specifically one of the bigger moments um, for both the video game and then the animated movies that came out
Mm-hmm.
was Captain Benjamin Mathias, his death and his sort of role during the outbreak and after. Um, I'd have him be played by Sam Neill, another
Okay. Yeah.
Event
sci-fi
Horizon.
alum. Event Horizon, very good. So
I
Yeah.
like it.
especially with the, I want to say it's Dead Space Aftermath. I think that was the first animated movie that came out.
There was a
They sort
few.
of really,
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. When you pick Dead Space, it's not like it's unprecedented that you got visual media. It's definitely had that.
yeah.
So
They've also got novels, but I doubt I'll ever have access to those because those are both out of print, and then people are like
I
scalp selling them for like hundreds of dollars. So
as much as I actually like reading novels or listening to them, um, I find that most video game novels are lacking personally. I have read a few. I've read a few of the Diablo ones. I've read a few of the Doom ones. Like they're a ride. I think the Doom ones are infamously bad. So
mhm,
I don't know. I'd come at that one with a bit of hesitation.
that's okay. But yeah, I think Sam Neill would be a good fit, sort of flipping and combining his role from Event Horizon,
Yeah,
with him being the captain of the ship who then goes insane and is unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, killed. But then his body does end up getting transitioned to a necromorph by one of the bat infectors.
the okay,
Uh, yeah.
okay,
And then Dr. Terrence Kine, who um, helps Isaac out and then is later killed by Kendra in the game. I would
okay,
have him played by Stellan Skarsgård.
okay.
Stellan Skarsgård has been a pretty great actor. I recently finally got around to watching and finishing up Andor, and he was pretty good in that double agent role. I
Okay.
thought that was pretty interesting to see. And then he's also been in a number of different works, most notably Chernobyl recently. So I've always liked his acting. And then last but certainly not least, uh, Dr. Callus Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
He is the chief science officer who is a unitologist and sees the outbreak and the necromorphs as the next evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
And throughout the game, he is definitely an antagonist and works against you,
Yeah.
both like blocking off doors, uh, killing people in front of you, getting them infected, and then also uh, unleashing his creation, the Ubermorph, against you.
The Uber morph. That's such a fun name.
I mean, it just respawns endlessly.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you would call that.
No,
Maybe just the immortal.
I like the name. It's funny.
Uh-huh.
Um.
Um, I would have him be played by Michael Mondo, who, if you don't know, he was Nacho in Better Call Saul,
I haven't seen that show.
and he was also Zaz in Far Cry 3.
Okay.
I think his name is Zaz. Um, he's a phenomenal actor, and
Didn't play that
uh,
game either, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Better Call Saul, because I got into that in recent years. He was very good in that, and or Voss is what it is. That's his name.
Okay.
Um,
I'm sure
he
other
was
people know what
also
you're talking about. That's just a gap in my
It's.
TV
Do you
knowledge.
remember from the game trailer that they constantly show? Do you know the definition of insanity?
Yes. That one.
That guy.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha. Then I do know that performance. Yes.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think it was Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 6. I want to say it was 5. They have him make a voice cameo in the end credits, I
Oh,
believe.
that's fun.
Um, he was also in Spider-Man: Homecoming as Mac Gargan, um, the character who I believe they were setting up to be the Scorpion.
Oh, the guy who talks out against Birdman and gets
Yeah,
blasted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, he definitely does a
The Vulture.
really good character actor. Does a really good like intimidating speech right before uh, he goes out in Better Call Saul,
Yeah.
and I think he'd be a perfect fit for a and I mean being Voss, uh, I think he'd definitely do a very good job of playing a unhinged cultist who is just killing people and you know letting them get mutated and um, added to the hive mind.
Sure.
So that's my main cast. They did add some other people for the remake. I mean, there were initial crew as well, but I mean, I didn't really want to
Cast everything.
super go hard into casting people who are gonna die in like the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, now where we're going to get into trouble with my thing is like everyone that I've casted has a significant role in their story. So
Hmm.
that's why I had to cast so many people. But I totally left out insignificant that were still actors, that may need to be there. Like people who would die really quickly or that kind of thing. Or you had to get this one thing from this one guy. And it would be like, yeah, that'd be a good cameo role, but like nothing else. So I get that.
Hmm.
Okay, so Dead Space the movie. Last question, not the movie, the show. Last question for you. Do you have a director in mind or something like that?
I mean, I feel like I'd maybe want to go with Mike Flanagan
Sure.
just because he's been doing really good with horror.
Okay.
Um,
Now, directing a
maybe
show and,
have
and a movie are totally
So
different
this
things,
is
but
going to make us
he's done both
cry.
movies. He's done both movies and shows.
yeah,
You want Dead Space to make you cry. That's what you want.
yeah.
Well,
We want to
cry after you've
feel. We
pissed
want
and shit yourself screaming.
we want to
Yeah.
feel the loss of Nicole.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
Mm.
okay, I like it. That was, even though we expected you to go Dead Space, I like your casting choices there. Like it wasn't like, hey, it's Ace. We're going to talk about Dead Space for an hour. It was no. I was like, I actually enjoy, hearing like how you would portray certain characters and that kind of thing. Because ultimately, the way I put this is like we're kind of like the producer director on this situation because it is kind of our vision. So yeah.
Hmm.
So I get it. Okay, cool.
But yeah, I could. And then, like I was saying with Dead Space too, if he wasn't gone, I would say Lance Reddick would make a pretty good, forget what, director Tideman, I think,
Hmm.
something like
I
that
don't.
for.
I only know about Dead Space 2. I don't have any context to. All I know is they stab him in the eye at one point. They
Well,
stab
yeah,
him.
Isaac gets stabbed in the.
Yeah, he gets some sort of injection in the eye, and I remember that being a big squeamish thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, Hans Tideman. Yeah, so it was Tideman.
Okay,
Um, like especially with Horizon Zero Dawn, he definitely uh Lance Reddick has definitely played that sort of two-faced and like 2, 3 steps, maybe even 10 steps ahead of everyone,
sure.
especially Aloy, because in the first game, and I would say also in the second game, he definitely manipulates Aloy a lot and like plays on her naivete in the first one, just because that's like her sort of coming of age story.
Got you. Okay.
And then Nolan Strauss would then be another interesting uh, casting choice. I think I might go with Elijah Wood for that role. Um, Nolan Strauss is a survivor from the USG Ishimura
Mm-hmm.
who is also insane. And I mean, if you've seen his works, Elijah Wood has done very good with horror.
Yeah. I mean, he did that. That's him, right? In Sin City, he plays the creep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's also a more recent one too.
I don't know. I've been
Forget
watching a
what it's
lot of
called.
Frodo, so it's hard to see him not as a Hobbit. Again,
Yeah,
thanks
true.
to your theory that you brought up.
Yeah, and then I think for Ellie Langford, I think Rosario Dawson would be a pretty good fit for
Sure.
that character because she's a headstrong person and definitely competent with taking down necromorphs and defending herself. Uh, and if you've seen Death Proof,
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson's character in that is pretty great and gets the final shot on Kurt Russell's shithead character in that movie.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. So that's a lot for Dead Space, but okay. I don't know, dude. I never get through it. It's to me, it's like a one man show kind of deal with Isaac. But there are other characters, sure. But yeah, it shows how much I know about the game, even though
Yeah.
I've tried to play it several times, and I do know about some of the characters. Cool. Okay. So moving on, Sasha. Let's hear what your surprise show is. Even though it's probably you said it's on brand, so
Yeah, I mean it's on brand for me.
yeah.
So I picked Fallout New Vegas.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. So on brand. However, where I went my own way is I did not pick the events of Fallout New Vegas for my show.
Mm-hmm.
I picked a lot of the history of the characters and things that you get from talking to characters, playing specific run throughs of the game, terminals, like quests,
So
all the actual lore.
is this before the player wakes up in the vault, essentially?
Well, you get shot in the head in the beginning of Fallout New
Oh,
Vegas.
sorry. Yes, that one. Yeah.
So
It's Fallout.
yes,
I just expected a vault. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, this will all be essentially everything leading up to you getting shot in the head.
Sure.
Um,
So we're Star Wars prequeling it. We're prequeling Darth Vader, essentially.
yeah. We are. So there will be characters that are in Fallout New Vegas, but
yeah.
some of them are a lot younger. And because it's HBO, you got to make it sexy. So certain characters may be a little more attractive than they are intended to be.
Sure.
In the game because it's HBO, and you want people to want to watch this. So I went pretty deep on this. So I did an 8-episode arc, and it's going to start in the year 2246.
Okay.
We open on Joshua Graham, who is the burned man. He's not a burned man right now. He's just a normal man. Joshua Graham is played by Sean Bean. And he is with Edward Sallow.
Scene Bean.
Who...
Yeah.
we will know later to be Kaisar.
Okay.
But Edward Sallow is just Edward right now. He's played by Alexander Skarsgård because it's HBO.
Yeah.
Got to make
Sure.
it sexy.
Mhm.
So Joshua Graham and Edward Sallow, they have been captured by a Blackfoot tribe, and they are being ransomed to the followers of the Apocalypse. They were on initially just a research mission. What they were doing for the followers of the Apocalypse was learning some of the dialogue of the different tribes so that they could better serve the community, because the followers of the Apocalypse are essentially the medics of the wasteland.
Yeah.
So they've been captured by the Blackfoots, and the followers are not coming to help. They've denied the ransom. And
That's unfortunate.
we get this kind of intro in the first episode that the Blackfoots are one of 8 tribes that are warring against each other out in the wastes right now. And we're out like west in the United States. Well, the wasteland of the United States, and it's no longer that anymore. So that's our episode 1. We move to episode 2, and we start to really see that Edward is not just this pretty face. He is really cunning.
Mm-hmm.
And Edward kind of reverse Stockholm syndromes his captors. And he trains them in the art of war. He trains them in gun maintenance, tactics, explosives, improv, military strategy, just like all this stuff so that they essentially are going to be the best, like most prepared of these 8 tribes that are warring in the wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we just get all this, like, get to know Edward, and we also get to know Joshua Graham, who's like really, really steadfast in his Mormon faith. He's really upset that the followers of the Apocalypse are abandoning them.
Sure.
Feels like they put themselves out there for the good of the people, and the people are not coming for them. So he's dealing with that. Then we move to episode 3. So it's about almost a year after they've been initially captured. And we have a full-blown war of the tribes. Like, it has come to an apex. They are all fighting, like Anchorman like style. Everyone's fighting.
Yeah.
The Blackfoots come out on top, and they make Edward their leader. And they name him Kaisar. And they start to take on the whole Roman troop thing. And Kaisar's Legion is formed. And what he ends up doing is absorbing all the remaining like people that have survived this battle. So the tribes that have survived, the men are made into slaves, the women are made into essentially like breeding cattle, and anybody that doesn't follow suit is killed.
Oof.
Yeah. So then we go to episode 4. We're going to go back. We're going to flash back. Open in 2065. We see Mr. Robert House, who's played by Bryan Cranston. He is he's an engineer. He's a robotics engineer, and he's used computer coding, computer systems to predict that nuclear exchange between China and the United States is going to happen. And he, like, to a date, like, has it down. He knows it's going to happen on October 23rd, 2077. So it's like 12 years prior to that. So he starts his plans, puts his plans in place to develop the countermeasures to try to stop the effects of nuclear war, the devastation that's going to happen to the United States if it happens. Well, when it happens, because he says, I know it's going to happen. This is where we learn about the platinum chip, which is like the central thing in New Vegas. Mm-hmm. So we learn about the platinum chip. It gets made in Sunnyvale. The chip is set to be delivered, so we get a little flash forward to October 23rd, 2077. The chip is being carried by courier to Mr. House's place.
Yeah.
Except the bombs dropped 20 hours earlier than Mr. House predicted.
Ooh.
Shit. Yeah. So, despite this, Mr. House does destroy 68 of the 77 ICBMs that are aimed in the Vegas area. So this is why New Vegas is different than Fallout 3 and some of the other Fallout areas, and that a lot of it is not irradiated.
Right.
Vegas is saved. Mr. House bunkers down in the Lucky 38.
Okay.
So we're going to go to episode 5. We return back to our timeline. It's 2271. Kaiser's Legion has expanded west, like fully expanded west. They have 86 tribes absorbed into their legion now. They've established Fortification Hill over Lake Mead and the Colorado River. Tensions are rising between Kaiser's Legion and the NCR, the New California Republic, which is essentially just a bunch of sharecroppers that are being defended by like guerrilla military troops.
Yeah.
But the NCR does have a president.
Did run into them when I played.
Yep. The NCR does have a president named President Kimball. President Kimball is played by Eric Bana. President Kimball puts into place the Ranger Unification Treaty, which is all of these like smaller, like really small units of Rangers across the Mojave are all doing their own thing. Like, it's very vigilante justice. So he wants to pull them into the NCR because they need this kind of help to defend what they think is this big looming threat of Kaiser's Legion, because they're 86 tribes to their grassroots sharecroppers, right? So that's our episode 5. Also within episode 5, what we get is somebody in the Lucky 38 is busy. And they have sent out a Securitron with instructions to a couple of tribes out near the Vegas border. There's the tribe called the Slithican tribe. There's a mystery cannibal tribe.
Yeah.
And then there's the Mojave Boot Riders. And the Securitron goes out to them and says basically, hey, we got a couple casinos on the strip, and y'all got this Kaiser's threat out here. Maybe you guys want to come in, set up shop in one of these casinos, and work for us.
Yeah.
So this is how we get the Omertas and Gomorrah. This is how we get the White Glove Society and the Ultralux. And this is how we get the chairman in the top.
Got you. Okay. So you're establishing all these groups.
Yeah. So, and to tell you who plays some of these people, the Omertas are in Gomorrah, which if you didn't make it to Gomorrah, they're kind of the Sopranos of the strip.
Yeah.
Or like, not even really the Sopranos. They're more like 1940s gangsters.
Sure.
So you've got, just for their leaders there, you've got this guy Nero. He's a charismatic, handsome guy. And he leads all of the gangster group. He's played by Oscar Isaac.
Okay.
And his right-hand man, his big, burly, like bodyguard, Big Sal, is played by David Harbour.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And then we have the White Gloves, who part of their deal with the Securitron is that we will not talk about the cannibalism that their tribe engaged in out in the wasteland. You know, they did what they had to do to survive. And they take on the Ultralux, the White Gloves do. And we have Mortimer and Marjorie. So Mortimer is played by Damian Harriman, which, if you don't know who that is, he plays Charles Manson in the Mindhunter series. And we have Marjorie, who's played by Jenny Slate. And then we also have the Tops, which has Benny. So you know Benny. He shoots you in the head in the very beginning of New Vegas.
Yeah.
But I feel like Matthew Perry's a little too old now to play Benny, even though he voices Benny in the game.
Come on.
So I picked instead his counterpart in 17 again, Zac Efron.
Okay.
So Zac Efron is Benny, and he leads the Tops.
Okay.
And Benny's got something going on too.
Sure.
Little reveal at the end of
he
episode
does.
5.
Yeah.
So now we're in episode 6. It's, let's see. Flash forward like 2-3 years. It's 2274. The NCR, still led by President Kimball, they've fully arrived in New Vegas. And, like, they're setting up shop, and they're really trying to take over to establish themselves as the dominant force of the Strip.
Yeah.
But remember, someone's been busy in Lucky 38.
Yeah.
Somebody is in control of the Securitrons. Somebody hired these 3 houses to run the casinos. But essentially, we have more of the Emeritus, the chairman, the White Gloves, really just being pissed off about the NCR now being on the Strip. And Benny has his own Securitron that he has used. He's hacked it somehow. And he's been able to get information from the Lucky 38 and from some of the other casinos. So he's like full-blown spy network.
Sure.
With his Yes Man Securitron. We also get to see Freeside at this time. Oh, and Yes Man is played by David Cross. Well, he's voiced by David Cross.
Good. Yeah, I like that.
We see Freeside, which is it's the poor area of New Vegas. It's not the Strip. It's not the glitz and the lights and the glamour. It's the starving people, and more of part of it was hit by bombs. So it's not irradiated, but it is severely damaged. So in Freeside, we see the Kings. The Kings are a gang that has set up in an impersonation school for Elvis impersonators. And they're led by the King, who's played by Austin Butler, because he's got to get that, let's get it out of his system. He didn't win an Oscar, but he can be Elvis again.
Yeah.
And we also we meet the followers of the Apocalypse, officially. Now, all we've at this point learned about the followers of the Apocalypse is that they're not very good to their people. So at this point now, the followers of the Apocalypse are like down to almost nothing. A lot of their people have left. They don't have a lot of support. They have almost no money. They're working on donations and foraging and scavenging only.
Wow.
The 2 notable people, the followers of the Apocalypse, that you need to know, one of them is Arcade Gannon, who is one of the companions in the game. He's voiced by Zachary Levi. He's played by Zachary Levi in the show.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he does a great job with Shazam. So.
And then we also have Julie Farkas, who's like the lead medic, and she's also the leader of the followers, like what's left of the followers anyway. And she's like a cute, punky, spunky. She's got like a mohawk. She's younger. People don't really think that she has it in her to lead because she's so young, but she's such a gifted medic that they don't really have much of a choice. She's played by Kristen Stewart.
Okay. All right.
So that's what we got going on in episode 6, because we're leading up into episode 7. At the end of episode 6, we see that the NCR also has a foothold at the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
And Kaisar's Legion is approaching. So episode 7 is the first battle of the Hoover Dam, which is heavily referenced all through the game as pretty serious defeat of Kaisar, underdog upset. So we see how it happens. Essentially, Kaisar's Legion goes up onto the dam, and the NCR, led by their the Ranger Chief Hanlon, played by Steven Dorff. He plans a tactical retreat. He pulls back a lot of the forces towards Boulder City. And the Legion falls for this, and their elite forces go to follow, and they are picked off by NCR Ranger snipers. All their elite forces are.
Wow.
So what's left of them, led by the legate, Joshua Graham, Sean Bean, they bum rush Boulder City. They're like, you know what, F this, we're going to take them out. Except Boulder City's booby-trapped by Lee Oliver. General Lee Oliver, played by Michael Ironside.
Okay. All right. So Sean Bean dies again.
Maybe. This is why I picked Sean Bean. Because you think he's gonna die. Because he's Sean Bean.
Okay.
So NCR, the Legion forces are pushed back. They are defeated. They're pushed back. The Legate survives, but Kaisar is pissed. So his response, how Joshua Graham becomes the Burned Man, happens at the end of the Battle of the First Hoover Dam. In that, Joshua Graham is covered in pitch, set on fire, and thrown into the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And he survives.
Yep. Because he's the Burn Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't know he survives in,
in the show.
This.
Right, yeah.
We just see it end in him being kicked 300 style into the Grand Canyon. Which leads us to episode 8.
Oh my gosh. I hold on. I just remembered something. I watched this thing.
Yeah.
Did you know that kick was improvised?
No.
Yeah, that kick in 300.
And it's infamous.
And it's infamous. It was actually improvised. They were trying to do a take that was like a lot more subtle, a lot more subtle, a lot more subtle. And then he was frustrated because he couldn't get it right. So he's just like, let me try something. And the director's like, okay. And then he's like, this is Sparta! He just kicks him off because he was frustrated because he kept getting the lines wrong or something. And then that's what they used. So
I like it.
All right.
I just a random fact I saw on YouTube not that long ago. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so just like in HBO fashion, episode 7, the second to last episode of the series, is the real banger of the series. So episode 8 is really just gonna kind of like tie things up and prep us for the next season. So in episode 8, we kind of get to see who has been in the Lucky 38 doing all this shit. And it's like a very, 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 very old, like biblically old Mr. House. Still played by Bryan Cranston, but he's like, like 700 years old. Like old.
Yeah,
looks like that. So he's being kept alive by all these machines and things, and he projects his face onto a screen, and he looks like young Mr. House.
Oh, okay.
We also learn that Benny's been monitoring all of Mr. House's like incoming mail, outgoing messages, and he's learned that the platinum chip was being carried by a courier north of I-5 towards Good Springs. And he happens to go there because he wants to get this platinum chip because he knows if he has the platinum chip that he can control all the Securitrons on the strip.
Mm-hmm.
And who's in charge of the strip now? Not the Lucky 38, but the Tops and the chairman.
Gotcha.
So we flash to the Courier 6.
Mm-hmm.
But we also see other couriers because Courier 6 is called Courier 6 for a reason. He just happens to be the one carrying the platinum chip. There's couriers 1 through 5 as well. But we do see Courier 6, who's played by Pedro Pascal.
Nice. Okay.
He's headed north towards Good Springs, and he gets intercepted by Zac Efron and shot in the head.
All right.
And that's how it ends.
Cut the credits.
Season 1.
Okay.
Cuts or credits. And I forgot to tell you guys who plays. Hang on. A couple others.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go down my list. The Legate Linnaeus, who's going to replace Joshua Graham, is going to be, I cannot say his last name, so I'm going to tell you it's Joaquin Hagar from Game of Thrones, or he plays the Russian guard in Stranger Things.
Okay.
Tom,
yes.
I don't know, Tom W.
Sure.
Is who's going to take over as the Legate after Joshua Graham becomes the Burn Man. And then we also meet Mick and Ralph in Freeside. And you remember from one of the other episodes, I talked about Mick and Ralph. That's how you get the Pimp Boy 3000. So I felt like Mick and Ralph should be kind of funny, charismatic, and also it's HBO. Got to make it hot. We got Mick played by Ryan Reynolds and Ralph played by Sebastian Stan.
Okay.
And that's my Fallout New Vegas, and I would watch the shit out of this.
I mean, I probably would. The only reason why I haven't watched The Last of Us is because I played the games. So like I don't feel like I'm going to garner a lot of new information watching the shows, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I will watch them. I'm not much of a show watcher, but you guys know that. So, but
You disappoint me.
I mean, all the time. That's fine.
Some of the characters they make worse in a good way.
Okay. But it's also been a long time since I played. It was my first PS4 game, and that was
Do
when I
you
played it.
remember David,
No. Is David the
leader
leader
of
of
the
the?
cannibals?
Okay, yeah, yes.
They make his character so much more sinister and dark.
Okay. I maybe will watch it. I do have HBO Max. I can watch it. We'll see.
Don't give me
Look,
that maybe shit. Watch it.
no, it's a maybe. You know my gaming schedule. You know what I'm dealing with. All right. So I like this one. I probably would watch it just because I have played Vegas, but I hadn't finished it. So like I'd be interested at least. I do like the cast a lot. To be fair though, you guys have touched on a few of my cast, like a few. So there's some crossovers here. I will say that you guys are much more aware of the TV world than I. So you guys have some actors in more popular TV shows than I do. Most of mine are movie people, but I mean, you do have some movie people in there. So, and I will say, I don't think I cast Zac Efron, but I heavily considered him for a couple roles because he appeared in the actors in their 30s quite a bit when I was looking for this. So yeah, I think I'd watch both of your guys' shows so far. This is turning out to be really fun. I'm going to have to go with mine a different way because if I talk about the plot, we're going to be here forever. So what I'm going to boil it down to is, first of all, I just really quickly, I told everyone immediately I was doing the Octopath, but I did consider other options. And I will say the big three options were Octopath, with which being the largest cast with the most interpersonal relations. So that's a big thing for me about HBO shows. I was thinking Game of Thrones, that kind of stuff, where they have a lot of people. So I was like, okay, so what would have a lot of characters that would have some interactions? And then, so Octopath Traveler 2 was obviously up there. I considered Octopath Traveler 1, but I'm more familiar with 2 because it's more recent. So I picked that. Mm-hmm. But I also considered Leap of Faith, the storybook game that I played that was about the girl who tried to commit suicide, and it was like a dating sim, and it was like really had like a lot of sex in it and stuff, and I was really blown away by it. Not the sex, the story. But that would be like a perfect HBO show. It's very sexy. There's a lot of music in it. It would be like a very club kind of thing. So it'd be like, there'd be a lot of like, you'd put a lot of sexy actors in there. You'd have a shit ton of sex scenes. I'm not even kidding. There would be a lot, and they'd probably put more in, and they'd probably put characters together. But the problem I would have with that is there's too many differing storylines that you can do, because it's basically depending on who you date in the game will change up the ending quite a bit. So you kind of just, like we talked about with Mass Effect, off show, you kind of just have to pick a path and go with it, and I wasn't super comfortable with that, and I got that vibe from you also, Sasha. You were like, I don't like picking a path necessarily for
yeah,
game.
that was one of the reasons I didn't pick Mass Effect. I wanted to. The other reason is my work schedule. But
sure.
Yeah, I feel like for every person who feels very passionately about these types of choice role-playing games, they all have their own like one true path, right? And like for me, I wouldn't accept any version of Mass Effect on TV that wasn't female Shepard romancing Garrus. Like waste my time with any other combination. But that is not what other people's like one true path is. So you just can't make people happy. So that's why I didn't pick.
Yeah. Well, And then conversely, so that's what made me think of triangle strategy. And if you guys remember, that was on my list last year. Triangle strategy has a diverse cast and that kind of stuff, but its story isn't as interesting as the ones in Octopath 2, is why I didn't pick it. It also has differing paths, but there is a quote unquote golden path that is the true path. So you could just pick that one and make it so. But the golden path, I don't know, has more of a payoff if you've done a failed path before. So like that also kind of felt weird. And then like real quick, throwaway ones, I considered Oddworld, but I feel that didn't have much of a cast to work with. You basically have Abe and the Gluckins, and that would be it. You'd have to put a lot more characters into it. Most of my considerations were kind of trying to stick within the game story that we're seeing. So like trying to put some light on games that we haven't seen a lot of sales or that kind of stuff was my brain. Of course, it wouldn't work that way. If it didn't sell big, HBO wouldn't be making a show about it. But, you know. Anyways, without further ado, here's my plan for Octopath Traveler 2. Now, I'm going to start with the sort of formula for the episodes. I only have 8 episodes, but it kind of works out that way. There are 8 travelers. Now, there's not one episode is one traveler. They are very, in the game, they're very divergent stories that are very siloed. And you play in a party of 4, we all have all 8, you can switch in interchangeably, but you play in a party of 4, but those characters don't interact in each other's stories. They're just in the fights for the most part. There's dialogue after a fight to sort of like, hey, that was kind of rough. You want to talk about that, buddy? Kind of stuff, or little story bits that are really cool when you're playing the game. But that is like one of the downfalls of the game, I would say, is you don't get a lot of active involvement by other characters that are involved when you have them. So this show is going to change that. Everyone's going to start off on their chapter 1 alone, but they're going to be paired with someone else in the team, and there's already pairings in the game because they have every traveler has a person that is paired with them for special conjoined quests that also happen through. So basically, I'm not going to rehash what exactly happens in the story. That's going to happen a lot in the casting, so I can explain who the characters are. But so Oswald, which is our wizard, if you remember, he was in the prison, is paired with Particio, who is the merchant. And that is episode 1 is their part 1, and essentially what happens is divergent story before like halfway through the commercial break or whatever. You know what I mean? Like first half of the episode is Oswald, second half is Particio part 1, and I'm not going to make them full like chapter to chapter. Like I'm going to have their whole story there, but I do want to either squish or stretch chapters or whatever, so to make it make more sense. But essentially, at the end of Particio's part of the episode, we're gonna have a little bit of a segment where they sort of run into each other, and that starts the episode 2. So like, but another thing that I want to do is that people end up doing things in cities that do match up that aren't going to see each other. And what I want to do is like, so when you're working with Oswald and he gets to a certain point, you'll see
I'll be back.
Sure. So you'll see a just in the background, right? You'll see one of the travelers, just like a little in episode 1. You're not going to know who that is, right? At all. So episode 2 would start in episode 1, kind of looks like a recap, but then it focuses in on that person, and now we're looking at their story. So like those kind of like transitions and stuff. So like I said, Oswald and Particio part 1 is episode 1. Ochette, who is the huntress, that's a cat girl, is paired with Casti, who's the apothecary who lost her memory. So that's episode 2. Their first parts. Temenos, the cleric, is paired with Throne, the thief, for episode 3. And then episode 4 is Agnia, the dancer, is paired with Hikari, the disposed warrior who's kicked out of his kingdom. So like those are like the first can sort of like, now you have all these like 8 stories and you're like, okay, so who's going what? But at the basically some sort of meetup between the 2 character pairings, and now they are going to each other's story bits together on episode 2. So Oswald and Particio are together for episode 5, Ochette and Casti, Temenos and Throne, and Agni and Hikari. Now, that's sort of like the formula for season 1. this would have to be a multiple season show because there's not enough time to go through their whole, usually 5 chapter stories. So there's probably at least going to be 3, maybe even 4 seasons to sort of finish up everyone's story. And then there's a final season that is everyone is together because there is a final storyline that is everyone working at once, and there are cutscenes with everyone talking to each other and everyone because it's inferred in the game up to that point that they all know each other and they're all traveling together, all 8 of them, but they don't really make that clear. So I'm going to make that a little more clear in this, where the 2 of them are working together, but then at the end, the 8 of them start working together and form a bond, and then deal with the end of the 8. But we're only focusing on that. So without further ado, I'm going to get to the freaking long cast because every story has many things. So what I want to do is basically I'm going to tell you who the character is, a little bit about what their part is in the story, and give the actor and just a little tidbit of where they're from, because not everyone's going to recognize everyone. Like I don't. I had to Google 3 of your people, I think, while you were talking, because I'm not good with actors. I really not. So like that's why I was on Google the whole time I was doing this, because I was like, what about that one guy from that one thing? Like I don't. And then there's some weird picks in here because it's me. So without further ado, I'm going to start with Oswald. So Oswald, being the sort of learned wizard, his character essentially is, I've talked about him a lot with you, but so the audience knows, he is a wizard. His mouth has been shut up like the Iron Mask because he is accused of murdering his family. That's not really the case. He's wrongfully imprisoned and he's trying to escape and basically get back at the person who framed him, which he knows is a man by the name of Harvey. That is played by John Krasinski. And if you're familiar with John Krasinski, he's from The Office. He's A Quiet Place. He's a pretty famous actor. If you're only a Marvel movie fan, he's Mr. Fantastic from the Doctor Strange universe, multiverse. So Oswald is John Krasinski. The man named Emerald, who in Oswald's story sacrifices himself for Oswald's freedom, is Sean Bean. And I say because he dies. Everyone knows. That was one of the crossovers. But yeah, Sean Bean, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Lady Clarissa, who is Oswald's assistant before he's imprisoned and actually keeps his shop clean and upgoing and does her own research once he's gone, is played by Natalie Portman, known for Black Swan and Queen Amidala in the Star Wars series. Harvey, who is the bad guy and essentially his old associate and is the one who kills and kidnaps Oswald's daughter. Kills and kidnaps his wife and just kidnaps the daughter. And Harvey is played by James Marsden, who is known for the movie Hop, Sonic. He's also in X-Men as Cyclops. He's in one of my favorite movies, Interstate 60. I think James Marsden can play a fairly, let's just say, overconfident, self-assured wizard. I think he could do that. Rita, who is Oswald's wife, who unfortunately dies and is brought back as a sort of crazy zombie thing, is played by Jenna Fisher, who is Pam Beesly in The Office. I had to. And Elena is, I didn't know, like child actors, get out of here. I don't know any child actors. So this was where this was Googling. This is the daughter in The Quiet Place, which is Millicent Simmonds, I think is her name. And she is Elena, who is Oswald's daughter, who is kidnapped and then eventually freed. And then, like when I say eventually freed, like this is the end of Oswald's story. So we're way out there, but I feel like I have to describe the characters so I have context of how to cast them. because some of these characters won't be appearing in episode 1. There's no way, or episode 1 or season 1. I mean, so we move on to Ochette. Ochette is the smallest, tied for the smallest actors list. There's only 3. But I did do some, let's say, targeted casting for some things. Ochette is the huntress. Her homeland and theming of the area is very much African style, very much like an African savanna. So I tried to cast African American actors for her story and try to be sort of true to the area. I did that with a couple different places because, to be honest, it was a Japanese RPG by Square Enix. They were either all American or Japanese looking, and that was it. There was no diversity at all. So I added diversity. Ochette is played by Zoe Saldana, Avatar, Star Trek, Ahura. I feel she could do the
Gamora.
Yeah, also Gamora. I feel she could do a more upbeat. Ochette is a very naive and very upbeat character. I feel she could play that. She hasn't in a lot of things, but I feel she could. Master Juva, who is her sort of mentor and teacher and the current protector of the island, is Idris Elba. The Beast is the recent movie he's been in, which is dealing with a lion.
Say, does he survive a lion attack?
Master Juva is a lion. That's part of it too.
Oh boy. Okay.
He is a giant,
really on the nose there.
He's a giant talking lion. And Akala, which there's a choice between an owl and this weird jackal fox that is sort of Ochette's like guide / friend. Akala is the jackal fox that I chose in the game, so I'm going to keep with that. And he's sort of like a cool-headed, like, while Ochette is very naive but very quick to do things, Akala is sort of like her companion that is the quick to reason and like cool down and very like that kind of thing. He is played by Michael B. Jordan, known from Creed and the Black Panther first one. All right, so that is Ochette. Temenos, the cleric. This is not one I really did any sort of targeted casting for, but because there is some things going on here, I accidentally did this also too. We'll get to that when we get to Throne, because Temenos and Throne are paired together. But Temenos is played by Andrew Garfield, Amazing Spider-Man, Hacksaw Ridge, the one about some play recently I don't remember. But he's a really good actor. He does sarcasm very well, and I will always say that I think Temenos is still one of my favorite characters because one of his lines, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's basically like, for the blessings of God or whatever, something like that. And he's like, or something like that. And he says at the end of the statement, like he's very sarcastic even about his own faith. I feel Andrew Garfield hits sarcasm pretty well. I mean, he's played a healer in Hacksaw Ridge. He was the medic in that one. The Pontiff, who
Desmond
is
Doss.
Yeah. Huh?
Desmond Doss, I think.
Desmond Doss.
I think that's the full name. Private Doss.
Oh, yeah.
Doss is the last name. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it's Desmond or not.
He was the conscientious objector in World War II. But he went in as a medic. The Pontiff, who is the preacher that is sort of over Temenos and sort of like his murder, the Pontiff's murder is what sort of starts the whole thing. The Pontiff is sort of getting at the core of a corruption in the church, is played by Mark Hamill. I put in my notes, seriously,
Okay.
Star Wars. Like, if you don't know who Mark Hamill is, I can't help you. Mint.
Joker.
Yeah, the Joker too. Mint, which is like the plant mint, except there's a D. So mint, is played by Jenna Ortega, who is Wednesday, the Queen's Gambit, and that kind of stuff. I feel that she's not super important in the beginning. She's important when everyone comes together because she's actually a servant for essentially the Dark God. That is not revealed until the end. she has been pulling strings the whole time. I feel that Mint could play a very innocent person that sort of flips eventually.
Ah,
Crick, who is Temenos' great friend, and sort of like they kind of jab at each other quite a bit, but he's sort of like a muscle that works for the Sanctum Knights, is Chris Hemsworth, Thor. I've picked him for he's a great actor in the first place. I mean, Cabin in the Woods, stuff like that he's been in shows some of those other sides of him. But he ends up being killed and betrayed, but he is a good sort of like muscle to Temenos's, like wit. You know what I mean? Or savvy. He's not unintelligent, but he's definitely physically fit and physically there. And then Caldina, who is the head of the Sanctum Knights and ends up being the sort of like the cancer inside of the Sanctum. She's the head of the Sanctum Knights and also the bad guy, the big bad guy, the corruption in the church. She is the cause of it, and she is literally the whole head of the Sanctum Knights, and she's the bad guy. Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, also in the Fast and the Furious new movie. I feel Brie Larson could do a very tortured soul, is basically what it is, who hides a dark secret. Now we move on to Throne, and the reason why I paired them, I didn't necessarily pair the actors together between the stories. I've mostly focused on within their own stories, but it's funny because Throne is Emma Stone, which is paired with Andrew Garfield. So he gets a chance for her not to die because he's the cleric. So, anyways, Emma Stone, Easy A, Amazing Spider-Man, it's all sorts of things she's been in, La La Land, that kind of stuff. Throne plays the thief who's sort of trying to uncover the own mystery of her past, and is not really happy about a lot of things in her life. She essentially wants freedom. She has a collar, and if she tries to take it off, it will kill her. So she wants to get that collar off, and she's stuck in this terrible like den of thieves and sort of fighting her way out. Donnie, Piero, and Sriracha, to describe them, they're sort of her like brothers in the guild. Donnie and Sriracha die very early on in the story, but they appear a lot in flashbacks and stuff. They're important to the story for setup and that kind of thing. So Donnie is played by Kit Harington, Jon Snow. Donnie has that sort of like, not that Jon Snow can't look tough, but he does have that sort of like more innocent sort of style. He was like sort of got caught up in the Thieves Guild kind of deal.
He knows nothing.
Basically, yes. Sriracha, who's a little bit more of a tougher guy, but also sort of caught up in things, is played by Taylor Lautner. So they're all sort of wrapped up together. He tends to act and think later, from the little that you know him, which I think Taylor Lautner does that pretty well in the couple movies I've seen him in. And then Piero, who ends up trying to kill you to raise to the top, because basically the Thieves Guild, the secret agenda is everyone kills each other and whoever wins is on top. And under the guise of honor among thieves. And Piero is played by Daniel Radcliffe. The sneaky... He's one of your buds, but he is out to kill you, and you end up killing him at the end of chapter 1. So he's sort of the start of the uncover of the thing. Father, who is the quote, I say father in quotes, it is sort of like one of the higher up people in the guild that you do have to kill to sort of, you basically have to replace the two top people, which are father and mother, are their titles. Father is played by Robert Downey Jr. So an older man, very skilled. He favors Throne. He gives her a lot of attention because he thinks that she can get through. Mother, who is played by the character is a larger woman. but in the Thieves Guild, and does a lot through social stuff. You know, like the sort of social thief kind of thing. She's still deadly, but she's played by Melissa McCarthy. Because she also has a lot of funnier lines, or at least she thinks they're funny, in the story. Um, but I also could see Melissa McCarthy playing a more, I don't know, angry role. You may only see her like funnier stuff, but I've seen her in some more serious dramas, and I could see her playing angry. There's one about a bird in her yard.
Didn't she do the one where her and their kid died, and she's trying to find happiness again?
Yeah. So Melissa McCarthy for that one, and Claude, who is the literal father of Throne A and literally everyone else in the guild, as revealed at the end, who is the big bad guy, and his whole thing is that he created a lot of children to kill him because he's an immortal and he wants to die. The story is very weird. He's played by Hugh Grant because Hugh Grant does a very good slimy villain. He really does, and he did it well in the D&D movie, and I was thinking about that when I wrote this. So Claude is Hugh Grant. All right, next is Particio, the merchant. I don't think you guys are going to know this actor, but basically Particio is a very upbeat, very look on the bright side, trying to help people through his gifts of mercantile wares. He is played by Tanner Buchanan. Sorry, he's in Cobra Kai. He's the sort of like pretty long-haired boy in Cobra Kai. He's also in the what's that weird makeup? There's a movie in the 90s that is made fun of a lot for there was girl that took off her glasses and cut her hair and suddenly she's popular.
You talking about She's All That?
Yeah. There's a remake called He's All That, and he's the remake guy in that as well. I figured there might be some people in there you don't know. Pap, which is his father, which is sort of like a hardworking, just works at the silver mines there that they're at, trying to make a living and try to look out for the town, is played by Bryan Cranston. And I have in my notes from Godzilla and That Dumb Meth Show.
Wow.
I did that on purpose. I know you guys. But I like Godzilla, so it's why.
I mean, like, I know him from Malcolm in the Middle.
I never watched Malcolm in the Middle, but
You mean
he is in that.
You mean his witness protection days?
Right.
Mr. Rock, who is the guy who sort of screws over the town and sort of is the impetus for Particio going out and helping the world instead of using money for greed. Basically, Mr. Rock is the idea of not doing that, like his anti-example, sort of like the sleazy businessman that is the antagonist of the story, is played by Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean.
Okay.
So I wanted to use Rowan Atkinson, and I feel like Rowan Atkinson needs to not be a goofball for once. So he could be a little bit of a goofball in this because the Mr. Rock isn't the brightest cookie, but he's very, very business savvy, I would say. This is going to be a weird one because this is another one you guys probably haven't seen, but Never Have I Ever. It's a Netflix show.
Wait, I think I have seen that.
It's about an Indian girl who basically just tries to offer herself up, offer her virginity up to the most popular guy in school, and she's like obsessed
I don't think
with
I
him.
watched that.
It's
no, doesn't ring a bell.
But she has anger issues, like very big anger issues, and it's narrated. It's funny. It's a funny show. It is the story is narrated by, I can't remember his name right now. The tennis player who's known for being just absolutely angry and terrible. And I'm gonna Google it. Angry tennis player. Yeah. What is his name? No. What? He's so angry in tennis that that in Mr. Deeds they actually go out. He actually gets like bad publicity with him.
Andy Roddick?
No. Oh yeah.
I'm just reading
McEnroe.
names of men who have had tantrums.
John McEnroe. There you go. No, he's known for being extremely angry, for that kind of stuff. Sorry. John McEnroe is the narrator of the show. It's a really funny show. It's high school age. It's kind of weird, high schoolers trying to sleep with each other, but it's really funny. That being said, she plays Ori, who is the sort of like news reporter that follows Particio around. Like a lot of his story bits is he ends up in a newspaper trying to help the world, that kind of stuff. And this news reporter girl is following him around. And then Giff, who was sort of like an early boss and the guy who was sort of like left to sort of run the town into the ground when Mr. Rock left, sort of like a lackey of Mr. Rock to begin with, is played by Jonah Hill. Just sort of like Jonah Hill has that lackey energy. You know what I mean? Like the I'm in charge until I'm not kind of deal.
I feel like his character in Don't Look Up would be perfect for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
She's coming back.
Yeah.
She's coming back.
Yeah. 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 I like Don't Look Up quite a bit. So that is that. I will come back to Ori because later on in the story, there's a reason why I specifically cast. Oh, I didn't say her name. Sorry. Ori is played by. Bear with me here. I cannot. This is a hard name to pronounce. Her name is. Oh gosh, I lost my spot too. All right. Maya Treyi Ramakrishan. Whew. There's a reason for that because later on I have cast all American Japanese actors, and she is one of them. So, next to one of the smaller ones, Casty, who is the apothecary who forgot her past, and is sort of trying to rediscover her past, figure out why everyone hates the group of apothecaries that she's part of. She is played by Emma Watson, known for being Belle in the remake of Beauty and the Beast, and of course Harry Potter's Hermione. Yeah, that's the big one, I know, but yeah. I wanted to go with a more or wallflowers or stuff like that. And Malaya, who is her sort of like Tyler Durden, you learn later on, but like the apothecary that sort of pushes her along the way, is really just a figment of her imagination that is one of her old buddies who dies in the event that sort of causes her memory loss and the whole big deal. Her Tyler Durden character, Malaya, is played by Elizabeth Olsen, or Wanda.
I feel like it should be Anya Taylor-Joy, and then it's Last Night in Soho.
Maybe, but I think Elizabeth Olsen can do I don't know. I think she can play the character the way that Malaya was, because Malaya is very factual, but then gets really emotional at times. Like there's like a switch there. And then Trissel, which is a really weird name, is I did this on accident, but I like it. Is played by Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley. But basically, he's the bad guy in her story. He snaps. He has a patient that dies, and he can't figure it out. So he snaps and he says, "You know what? Everyone should die." So he creates this poison purple rain, and that's what kills all of her team and this whole village, which is why everyone hates their thing. And he's off on a plan to go kill a whole nother city and kill everyone in the world with his crazy purple rain poison. And yeah, Rupert Grint can definitely play the person who snapped. I could see it. So there. that's Casty. This is the long one. I'm really sorry ahead of time. Agnia, who is the dancer, there's a lot of characters in her story, which made it a lot more interesting and a lot more in depth than I expected when I first played the game. This one is kind of targeted on my casting because there's a lot of singers and dancers because she's a dancer in the story, and there's a lot about becoming a star performer and that kind of thing. So Agnia herself, who wants to become a star based on her mother was a star, and she's always just her dream is just to become, a dancing star. It's played by Anna Kendrick. Pitch Perfect, Trolls, a lot of music, a lot of singing parts in her career. Paula, who is her younger sister, is played by Sophie Turner. And Sophie Turner is Sansa Stark. She's also in, what's it called? Tall Girl is the Netflix movie. Basically, Paula is just her younger sister that takes care of their dad. And Kawani, who is their mother who died, who was a huge megastar. Jennifer Lopez. Wedding planner. Also just being Jennifer Lopez, being an amazing pop star.
How did Jennifer Lopez have a redhead?
We're not worrying about that yet. I didn't cast it on hair color. I'm sorry. And Garrod, for his very stoic and very quiet performance in most of the movie, is Keanu Reeves. He can play the sad man very well. That's their father, who is very quiet. Gus, who is the tavern owner of the town, her hometown, and believes in her and kind of has a crush on her, but doesn't do much about it. Michael Cera from Juno, and is it Superbad that he was in too? Was he one of the ones in Superbad?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, and of course Scott Pilgrim.
He was also himself in This Is the End.
Oh, okay. I didn't see this.
And if I remember correctly, he gets speared by a light post.
That sucks. Gil, who is another tavern owner that used to play a lot of piano but kind of gave up on himself, just sort of runs the tavern now. But along the way, Agnia sort of re-inspires him, is Donald Glover. Known from, Childish Gambino, The Community, he was in one of the Spider-Man movies, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also Atlanta, his show.
Yeah. The theater manager, in which she thoroughly destroys his life by basically the theater manager in this story dresses down a lot of people, and she's like, no, you can't, her Agnia's story is a lot about inspiring people and making people happy, and the theater manager is just basically just a mid-tier bad guy that keeps popping up a lot. He's important because he comes up a lot, but he has a lot of comedic parts where he's like, there's sort of like physical comedy with him a lot. Not a whole lot of physical comedy, but basically he's funny. He's comic relief. He's a bad guy, but he's comic relief. I made him Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian. So I did a lot of performers in this one, obviously. Giselle, who is a wandering talent, who is a comedian, who Agnia inspires to keep going and becomes a fast friend, is played by Kristen Bell. Good Place and several other great shows that she's in and movies too. I have The Good Place. That's where I know her most from. But now I said this is the only one I don't have their name. It's called The Crazy Girl, because the crazy girl is actually one of the other girl's sister, and she's tricked and she's very religious, and she says, "Oh Lord," and that kind of stuff. Like, I call her crazy because she basically brings on this great darkness and summons a dark god and that kind of thing. But she's acts like an innocent girl that's part of the comedy troupe for a long time. Is Anne Hathaway. Devil Wears Prada,
You're going to go with Mia Goth.
No. Catwoman. If I were to really pin her from something that I first knew her from, it would be Princess Diaries. Okay, so, oh, goodness gracious. Lalia, who is kind of a weird story, but Lalia is the girl that is sort of a troublemaker in one of the towns. Agnes sort of turns her around by teaching her to channel her anger through dance and art instead of like bullying people and graffitiing. She is played by do I have her twice? I do have her twice. Sorry. Anya Taylor-Joy. Right? No, I don't. Did I?
You didn't. I said Anya Taylor-Joy.
That's what threw me off.
The Tyler Durden
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy. Sorry, that threw me off. Okay. Now the last two.
Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
That's all I
As they
hear
call
now.
her.
That's all I hear now.
Yep. Okay. Almost done with Agnia. And then Hikari's the last one. Veronica, who is the sort of hired muscle for the main antagonist, literally just bodyguard, super buff woman. Michelle Rodriguez. She's known for doing that kind of role, the sort of like angry, tough woman. Fast and the Furious series, Dungeons and Dragons. She also plays the barbarian in that. And then Dulcinea, who is the main antagonist, who is the current superstar, was trained by her mother, but sort of like took her teachings and made it about greed instead of helping the world. And just involved in herself is Eva Mendes. If you've known her from Hitch or Ghost Rider, those are the kind of things I saw her in. So yeah, there you go. That's the big one for that. And the last one, I will call back to Ori. This is the last one. This is all the Japanese and Japanese American and one Chinese. There's not all of them are Japanese. I do have some Chinese and Korean actors in here too, but Asian, because this is a very Asian story. Hikari's story about, like military honor and that kind of stuff. A lot of samurai kind of stuff in there, so starting that off, also from Never Have I Ever, which you guys haven't seen, Hikari is played by Darren Barnett, who is Paxton Hall in the show. And Hikari is the main character. He's like basically trying to reclaim his kingdom and that kind of stuff. Basically, Paxton Hall from Never Have I Ever, which is Dan Barnett. Dan Barnett is basically the right age and the right kind of look I was going for, is essentially where it was. But he plays the super hot guy in Never Have I Ever that the other girl throws herself at. And is actually quite a deep character in that show. Kazan, who is sort of like the master tactician that it works with Hikari, is played by Jackie Chan. Now he's the one that isn't Japanese, but he's Chinese. I'm not even going to list, you know who Jackie Chan is. Everyone knows who Jackie Chan is. I'm not going to list anything. Like, no. I said, do I even need to in my notes? Yeah, Kazan is actually the older brother to Ori, and Kazan and Ori are part of the people who orchestrate the end and the revising of the Dark God, along with some other people in the conspiracy. And that's why Ori is the one Japanese or the one Asian actor in Partitio's story. Mugen, who is Hikari's older brother, who is the bad guy who wants to continue the kingdom's legacy of slaughter and blood, is played by Ken Watanabe. And if you don't know him, he's in The Last Samurai. He's sort of like the peaceful leader in that, but also he's in Godzilla. He's the one who says, "Let them fight." The sort of like researcher guy. Jigo Ku, who is their father, who used to be the general who was terrorizing the nation and conquering stuff, but learned through Hikari towards the end of his life that he was erred in his ways and he must try to make peace. But then he dies. It's played by James Hong. James Hong, for those who don't know, is the goose in Kung Fu Panda. He's a very famous voice actor for a lot of sort of like those old man roles. He was even played an older man in
Everything
Big
Everywhere All at Once.
Well, yeah, he's in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely in that. Big Trouble in Little China. He plays the big end boss guy. That's where I was going with. Kura, who is Hikari's mother, who is murdered, is played by Michelle Yeoh, who is Everything Everywhere All at Once, the main actress. Ritsu Mishuyo is one of Hikari's good friends, but ends up allying with Mugen and is a constant thorn in Hikari's side. He doesn't want to kill him because they used to be good friends, but Ritsu is very much an antagonist. He's played by Harry Shum Jr. This is one of the few I didn't know. If you recognize that name, it's some Stomp the Yard and other things like that, which I did see, but I don't remember that movie. That was like high school days. And then Rai Mei, who is the other part of sort of like the good friends trio in Hikari's story, is played by Gemma Chan, who is Cersei in the Marvel's Eternals movie, which I did not see. But that was the most recognizable thing I could find her in. And that is the whole casting and story. I am sorry that it's so long, but basically the story is said through the characters mostly in mine rather than the plot, because if I was going through the plot, it would be very longer. But yeah, there we go. And I had to cast all of those people. In fact, I probably could have cast the rest of Casty's party that died, because at one point they do play an important part, but I couldn't find their names to even try in the game. So why try to cast them if I can't find who their names are in the game? So there we go. Sorry, that was extremely long. I'm sorry. I know, but there's probably like 45 minutes of me doing that by myself.
Just about.
So it was a great premise, Sasha. I put a lot of thought and a lot of work into this. And I think I would have done that for any movie I was doing, but I would have been doing that for the plot instead of the cast if it was something like Doom or, something like that I had done. Because like, how do you make that more interesting? Because I'm not going to lie, I like the Doom movie. I really do. The one with The Rock and Carl Urban.
I mean, I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I think if you go into it not expecting it to be anything but fun action, then you will be pleased.
Yeah, no, don't even. I can't even describe how loud I yelled in the theater when it went to first person mode in that movie, and I was like, "What? Oh my gosh, that's so amazing!" Like I was so. It was literally me and my brother and one high school friend that saw that movie in the theater. No one else was there, and it was just us, and it was fun. So, HBO Octopath Traveler 2. The only other note I have for the whole show is that they are going to have to use the music in that game. The music in that game is phenomenal and played by a full orchestra. And you're going to have character themes and stuff playing while they're there. So you could even lightly put that in while they're talking and stuff in the background. Yeah, Lord of the Rings has themes. Anytime they're talking about the ring, there's that like always there's like themes for certain characters in Lord of the Rings. Like they could easily do this in this game, and this show. I said they do it in the game, and you can do it in the show. So like that, that would be the only other note I would have for my show. It's just the music would have to be there. Although it would have the problem with it being an HBO show, and I think this is the weakness for it, is that there isn't going to be a lot of sexy times, and that's a lot of thing in HBO shows.
Yeah.
There's sexy characters for sure, but there's not a lot of outright sex in this game. It just doesn't happen.
I mean, Stellan Skarsgård in Chernobyl. pretty good.
Sure. I didn't watch Chernobyl. Wait, there's a sex scene in Chernobyl? Isn't it a horror
No,
one?
there isn't.
Oh.
No, that's the show.
He also didn't pick a very sexy person for that either.
Not gonna lie, I don't. I know their names. I don't know what
plays-
they look like.
He plays like a gruff, like party, like a military commander.
Got ya. Hey, you know, some people could be into that. Not me, but some people could. Oh boy, I have no clue what I'm gonna do because you guys both had bangers 2 weeks in a row, and there's a lot of pressure on me to pick something good or come up with something good. So we'll see. Because I'm not gonna lie, I've been coming up with a lot of ideas over the years, and most of mine were lists for a long time. But that's because I listened to a video game list and I hated it. And then I talked to Pan and Morg at the time, and a little bit of Ace. Like, we got to do some lists because I feel like people are just doing it wrong. And then, so over the years, we've evolved what we're doing, and so.
I mean, you said you were thinking of pilfering my idea.
Possibly. But I don't want to do it that soon. I want to save that for another time. Yeah.
So, you had mentioned, because of Bryan Cranston, you enjoyed Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier today, I got my ass handed to me by Ghidorah
And what?
because I incidentally went to an area that I was not prepared for in Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh.
and I encountered so where it is the Colosseum,
Yeah.
where in the first game you fight a Lionel, I think a silver Lionel.
Mm-hmm.
In Tears of the Kingdom, it is a 300 a three-headed electric dragon, and I had initially climbed to the top of the Colosseum, and I
Yeah.
looked down to see what was in it, and I just see pretty much the entire ground floor of the Colosseum.
So. Oh, it's empty. Let's go down
Space occupied. No,
there. Oh.
you can see it. Most of the ground floor is taken up by the dragon,
Oh no.
and I was like, oh no. And Andrea was sitting next to me on the couch, and she was like, what did you find? And I was like, oh, I should stay away from that. And I showed her just
Yeah.
three-headed dragon, and she was like, hey, go mess with it. And I was like,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
And me
Yeah.
with 3 fairies got just absolutely ass rocketed into the afterlife.
Oh boy.
So initially because I only have 4 hearts right now.
Okay.
Initially it laser beamed at me, took out 1, and then it has ones that sort of like can track or strike, and
Mm-hmm.
I maybe did like, I don't know, 1 50th of its health.
Okay.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna just go around this when I respawn, and we'll come back to that later.
Okay.
We'll table this battle and get back to it when we get back to it.
Yeah. I haven't gotten far at all. Like I said, I played like maybe 30 minutes. I have gotten 2 powers, and I am still at the beginning island or whatever it is. And the girls,
Island in the sky.
yeah, the girls saw me play the initial part because they kind of like Zelda and Link and that kind of stuff, and they saw the part where there's the cutscene where, because you start off the game like if you had almost 100% the past game. You've got 20 hearts. You've got all this cool equipment and stuff, and then the guy shoots your arm with whatever power and breaks the Master Sword, and like you see your hearts just melt, just like all the way down to 3. And the girls were like, "No, Daddy, stop! They're killing you!" Like, I was like, "I just cutscene, girls. Like, I can't do anything. I'm gonna be fine."
I will say that very much gave me immediate Princess Mononoke vibes
Oh,
because
sure.
of the blight that is in that. Um,
I mean, I
although
say, "Oh,
so
sure,"
far
having never seen that movie, but okay, I'm aware
there's
of it.
there's a blight that infects the main character's arm, and it's essentially like a monster that can
Mm-hmm.
like rise up at any point,
Okay.
and he has to like control it. Um, so far that isn't a factor, but we'll see.
Well,
I wonder if it will. But
you
definitely
are,
gave me those vibes, especially with like the like Hendrily
yeah.
way that the blight went and attacked slash hit Link.
Yes, I will say in my defense, Sasha. I know you gave me a face when I said I hadn't seen that movie. It is on my list of movies to see, along with The Thing. Like, I love movies and I've seen a lot, but there are certain ones that I just haven't seen yet. And a lot of them that people scoff at me for are horror movies because I was not a horror movie kid. I did not grow up watching them. So, The Thing is the next on my list. I own it. I just haven't watched it yet. And then Princess Mononoke, I've heard is really good. I'm not a huge fan of anime, of course, so I haven't.
You've got no excuse now because it says it's on HBO Max.
All of the Ghibli stuff is.
I've seen Ponyo, and I don't like Ponyo. Ponyo's weird.
Princess Mononoke, Brave of the Fireflies, when Marnie was there.
Howl's Moving Castle.
I've seen
Howl's
Howl's.
Moving Castle.
I've seen Howl's Moving. I owned it at one point. It was a favorite of my ex-wife's, and I have seen it.
Ripley loves Spirited Away, and she says she wants to watch
Spirited
Mom and
Away.
Dad turning into piggies.
There's one in that style that I
My
really
Neighbor Totoro.
Yes, Ripley's a big Totoro fan. Currently, her Totoro bag is stuffed with pickle cats.
nice. um, so I haven't seen My Neighbor Totoro, but I have seen a movie in that style that I like, which is called Wolf Children. That one's fun. I do like that. That's about a mother who the father was a wolf, maybe, or a werewolf of sorts. And the children figure out they're wolves while living in the country. And figure out that the daughter sort of like is like more control of her. She can like turn into a wolf at any point. She can just do it. And the son is not really great at turning into a wolf, but it's sort of like a little growing up story of her kids sort of like deciding which side of their life they want to be on, and they want to interact with people more or be part of the wild more, that kind of thing. It's a really cool movie. I like it. But it is very much a Studio Ghibli style movie. Same hearts and that kind of stuff in the movie as well. I have it somewhere around here.
There was also on, I think it was on Netflix, there was also an interesting animated movie I saw similar to Grave of the Fireflies that takes place during World War II.
Yeah, I mean, Howl's Moving Castle
Can't remember
also
the name.
does take place at that time. It's either one or two, but one of them. Very military part, because Hal comes back from fighting quite often. It's been a while since I've seen that one, though. But, I might have time to watch these things if I wasn't watching and learning about so much Lord of the Rings lore to disprove this stupid theory I heard last week.
I think you could table it just so you could watch The Thing.
I could. But I was... You have no idea how much that messed me up because I was mad about that theory Monday. Like
Oh my
it
God.
got around to Monday and I was like, this is stupid and ridiculous and how could anyone say this? And I tried to watch it on I have a physical 4K of the Lord of the Rings and it actually started locking up. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I stopped watching it and then I ended up buying it digitally on Vudu because it was like $15 for the whole trilogy. I was like, why not? Like,
That's not bad.
so I did that and then I watched more of it, but I didn't finish. And then I did more research and it got away from me. And then you put up this thing and I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing now. So I haven't really gamed too much. I did play some of the Star Wars Survivor, the Jedi Survivor. I did not get far. I had hoped to finish it this week. No, I didn't even. It's like I didn't even try. I played a lot. I really did. But I did a lot of side questing, not a lot of progressing.
Did you unlock the mullet yet?
I did.
Oh my God. I'm
Does-
dying about the TikToks about the mullet. Oh my God.
I did not equip the mullet. No, I did not. He has his beginning standard long hair, and I gave him the full beard because beard. I like beards.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people doing the
The mullet was
lightsaber blaster combo with the mullet and like the beard, and then setting it to the I think what is it called, Team America or whatever. America,
Oh my God.
no.
America.
Oh no.
Have
No.
you seen the Don't Tread on Me ones?
Oh my God, no, I haven't.
Oh my
but
God.
That sounds
I'll have to
hilarious.
find it and send it to you.
I do not use TikTok, and I never have, and I will not because they are still in trouble for sending people's personal data to was it China or Russia? One of the two. So no, I'm not on
Yeah.
TikTok, and not even close. Like they were unequivocally proven of doing it this last week. That is the one political thing I know. Like the findings were
I'm pretty sure so was Facebook. You got a Facebook, so.
no. Well, Facebook was selling advertiser data. This was selling personal data.
You haven't gotten the notification from Facebook that says you may be entitled to a settlement from the class action lawsuit when they violated your data?
Nope. I have
Oh,
not.
well, that's a current notification in my feed.
Well, I don't have my phone with me right now. The girls took it to bed, so maybe it is there. Or Emery swiped it away, like she swipes most things away.
No, because it stayed even after I read it. Yeah, it says you may be entitled to receive payment from a lawsuit that was recently settled. Learn more. Facebook shared people's data with third parties and did not monitor how that data was actually shared.
Gotcha. I will say there's a bit of a difference.
So you might as well just get a TikTok.
Well, I can't avoid that happened on Facebook. I've had a Facebook since 2007, but I don't have a TikTok, so I don't have to do that. Not like I'm leaving a platform I was on, like just not going on a platform I wasn't on. So
I just mean the data's already out there.
I mean, as a person who's had his identity stolen, I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, I can't, I don't know. Something I heard, and I was like, nope, still not getting on TikTok. Every time I hear, if I can avoid it, I will. If I could have avoided it with Facebook, I would have. But I was a teenager who wanted to talk to the girls in his classroom on Facebook. So there we are. All right. So I don't have anything else today. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been gaming too much other than I did the Diablo 4 server slam mostly today, and we watched the Mario movie. And I actually got the kids a day early this week. They called me like, "Hey, can we come over?" I was like, "Yeah, come on." So they came over Thursday night instead of Friday night. So I've been dealing with the kids more, and with no great air conditioning in the house, just sort of trying to keep them cool and them entertained, and not doing a lot of gaming myself. Not a lot. Been on the computer and doing this stuff. So, alrighty. Next week I will come up with something. I will let you guys know as early as I can think of it, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot coming up for me personally, like game stuff, other than Breath. I was waiting for Breath of the Wild, and I barely got to play it. So hopefully getting some more time into it tonight if I don't get tired and fall asleep. So we'll see. Anything else from you guys?
No?
Okay, so we'll call it there. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to keep up with us at HunterSubPod on Twitter, and if you want to keep up with Ace on Twitter, it's at Ace Badger Gaming, and be sure to join the Discord. We had some fun chats. We got some Mother's Day stuff going on. By the way, happy Mother's Day tomorrow, it's Sasha, and to you, Pan,
Thanks.
when you're listening. Because she's definitely going to be listening to this episode, she said. And yeah, we're going out to Golden Corral for my mom tomorrow. And I got her she's a big, I keep saying Sound of Music in my head, but that's not the right movie, even though she is. Wizard of Oz. So I got her like a giant Wizard of Oz pop with a poster in it.
That's cool.
Nice.
I've been reading that to Ripley. We're almost done.
Cece's been reading Harry Potter, so she's been really into that. And I went to go show her the movie, and she was like, "I've already seen it." And I was like, "Okay, I guess you watched it in ROM." So we watched Star Wars instead.
We've been getting through like a chapter a night, and I was a little surprised at how graphic some of the violence was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, when I was a younger adult/teenager, I always kind of wanted to read the Salvatore books to my kids, but then there's like a straight up harem scene in one of the chapters, and I was like,
Well,
ooh.
I've never read Wizard of Oz, so I was a little blindsided by it. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's fine.
I mean, I'm not too worried about it at this point, because I did have to explain what sex was to the girls last time they were over. Because they were saying some things and I didn't understand what they were saying. So I was like, "You really want to know how that happens?" Yeah. So I told them. And they were like, "Ew, gross. I'm never having kids." Like, that was immediately what Emery said. Never. I was like, okay.
Hope that works out for you.
I mean, it won't. She's 6. She has no idea what she's saying. So.
True.
All right. Well, thanks everyone again. Once again, I have delayed the end of the show, but we will talk to you next week. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.